Most people are doing asset protection completely backwards. And if you're one of them, this video could save you from wasting tens of thousands of dollars on structures you don't even need yet. Today we're breaking down exactly how to make your trust own everything the right way, in the right order, at the right time. Let's get into it. Here's the truth that nobody in the financial conference world wants to admit. The gurus selling you complicated multi-layer trust structures. The Nevada holding company that owns another trust that owns a foundation that owns your LLC. That whole setup is almost never necessary for the average entrepreneur. And it definitely isn't where you should start. What you actually need is a clear phase-by-phase roadmap. And that's exactly what we're building today. Phase 1 is income generation. Before you even think about asset protection, you need to ask yourself a brutally honest question. Do you actually have assets worth protecting? Because if your primary financial challenge right now is figuring out how to consistently pay your bills, you're putting the cart before the horse. Getting distracted by complex trust structures before you've solved your income problem is one of the most common and costly mistakes entrepreneurs make. Focus first on building reliable, recurring income. Build up an emergency fund that covers 6 to 9 months of expenses and then keep stacking beyond that. Until income is solved, everything else is a distraction. Phase 2 is asset accumulation. Once your income is steady and growing, the next priority is converting that income into real assets. Real estate is one of the most powerful vehicles for this because it combines 3 wealth-building forces at once: appreciation in value over time, cash flow through rental income, and depreciation that reduces your taxable income. As you start acquiring properties, investments, and business equity, you're building the kind of estate that actually needs protection. A good benchmark to aim for before moving to the next phase is somewhere between $1.5 to $2 million in accumulated assets. That's when the asset protection conversation really starts to matter. Phase 3 is asset organization, and this is where the trust finally enters the picture. The structure that works for the vast majority of successful entrepreneurs and investors is simpler than you think. A basic revocable living trust is the foundation, not an irrevocable trust, not a dynasty trust, not some complicated web of entities, just a revocable living trust. Look at how most millionaires are set up and you'll find this is what they have. The revocable living trust sits at the top of your structure and owns the other entities you've created. Your LLC that holds your rental property gets owned by the trust. Your investment interests and syndications get owned by the trust. Your operating business entity gets owned by the trust. Why does this matter so much? Because a trust operates under contract law, not just tax law. What the document says is what controls how your assets are managed and distributed. That means when something happens to you, whether you pass away or become incapacitated, your assets transfer to your beneficiaries according to your exact wishes without the costly process of probate. Your family doesn't have to fight in court over what you intended. The trust document already answered that question. Setting up a trust does carry a cost, typically somewhere in the range of $2,500 to $5,000 depending on complexity. Plus any ongoing tax filing requirements depending on the type. That's exactly why you don't set one up before you have income and assets to justify it. The timing has to match where you are financially. Phase 4 is estate planning. Once your trust owns your LLCs and your businesses and your investments, the final layer is thinking about what happens when your estate grows large enough to trigger estate taxes. We're talking about estates that push past $10 or $25 million. At that level, your heirs could be hit with a significant tax bill if you haven't planned strategically. Estate planning tools help you redistribute assets during your lifetime, minimize the tax burden on the people you love, and ensure the wealth you built actually stays in your family across generations. Here's the mindset shift that ties all of this together. Wealth building has phases, and jumping to phase 4 when you're still in phase 1 doesn't make you sophisticated. It makes you broke and confused. The wealthy don't build complicated structures because they're complicated. They build the right structure at the right time because they understand the sequence. Your job right now is to figure out which phase you're actually in. If it's income, focus there. If it's accumulation, discipline up and keep acquiring. If you're ready for organization, start with a solid, revocable living trust. And let it own the entities underneath it. That's the foundation of a real estate protection strategy that actually works. The information has always existed. Now you have the roadmap. Go build something worth protecting.